My guest on the Culture Crawl is John Kenyon. John is the director of the Iowa City of Literature organization. Welcome, John.
Thank you very much for having me.
Nice to see you again.
Likewise.
Your main job is to promote literature in the only city of literature in the entire United States.
That is correct.
Which still blows my mind. Those of us who are here, who live here, of course, know about Iowa City as being one of the great literature cities.
Sure.
But it still astonishes me that of the, what are you up to, 6 or 8?
Actually, it's 11 now.
11.
They just named a few in December, so yeah.
None of the others are in the U.S. Iowa City is the only city of the UNESCO City of Literature in the entire American continent.
Yeah, actually, all in the Western Hemisphere, I like to say. Just make it seem even larger.
There you go, even better. But you do some book festivals throughout the year and come up to talk with us about the book festivals. And coming up is your children's book festival, One Book, Two Book.
That's correct.
And that is next weekend, right?
March 6th through 8th. That's correct.
And I think of One Book, Two Book as story time on steroids.
There's an element to that, yes. I mean, essentially, it's 3 days of programming, all about kind of the distinction we draw is that it is about writing for kids and by kids. And the by kids is certainly kind of an important distinction that I think sets us apart from other children's literature festivals. We have a kickoff event on Friday night for Iowa City students that will feature our keynote here, David La Rochelle, who wrote the books Moo and The Best Pet Ever. And we also have students from each elementary school in Iowa City who will read a piece of original work at that event. So that's a great way to kick things off and get started. We have events all throughout the day. On Saturday, those are almost all at the Iowa City Sheraton in downtown Iowa City. They start at 10 a.m. They run through 4 p.m. David La Rochelle, our keynote, will start things off at 10 with a presentation. We have 4 other authors who will be presenting throughout the day in various locations. Catherine House, who's a local Iowa City nonfiction children's author. Claudia McGeehee, very well-known Iowa City author who does like etchings and sketches with her book. She's going to debut her brand new book that comes out next week called My Wilderness. We have Sarah Prinius, of course, who many folks know from the Magic Thief series, who will be working with kids. We have Lawrence Tabak, who is a writer who lives in Madison. He's a University of Iowa grad and just wrote his first children's book. It's actually a young adult novel called In Real Life. And then we also have, now I'm blanking on my other author. I've got Claudia and Lawrence and Sarah and Catherine and David. I guess that's it. We have those 5. I was trying to remember somebody that isn't there.
The fictional ninth author.
And so throughout the course of the day, they will be doing events. There are 3 that I really want to bring people's attention to. One is a junior high writing jam. Another is the Comic Book Confidential. And a third is our illustration workshop with David La Rochelle. All 3 of those, they're free for kids to come and participate, but we are asking for pre-registration. So if folks wanted to visit onebook2book.org and check out information about those to see if their kids qualify, it's based on grade level. Those would be great opportunities to come out and work with some top-notch people on their writing and their illustration.
Talking with John Kenyon about the One Book, Two Book book festival for young readers and young writers coming up next weekend in Iowa City. John, what are the trends in literature for young people right now? Has it changed any over the last few years? Obviously, young adult fiction, particularly young adult dystopian fiction, has exploded in the last decade or so. But what about picture books and things like that? Are they pretty much the same as they've always been, or have they changed?
You know, I think what is happening is that things are getting more sophisticated, because I think the readers are becoming more sophisticated. Our kids are in a culture that throws a lot at them. You know, you hand a kid an iPad and they instinctively know how to deal with this thing, and so they are able to deal with things that are more interactive and even a little bit more meta. You know, my kids love a lot of books lately that have come out that are very much commentaries on the book that they're reading. A good example is the Iowa Children's Museum is going to be doing a skit during One Book, Two Book on Saturday based on the book The Day the Crayons Quit. And it's a fantastic picture book. I mean, my kids are really kind of out of the picture book age, but they enjoyed reading this with me just a couple of months ago. talking about the crayons are quitting because they're not being treated well. The blues are being used more than the pinks and such. And
I hate when that happens.
And it's happening on the page, and you can kind of see the story unfold, but yet it's kind of commenting on itself. I'm not even doing it justice. It's a very, very clever book. And the kids get it. It's a very sophisticated method of storytelling, and so it's interesting to see as we move through and do this festival from year to year, the way those things are changing, because it's definitely people are having to step up their game a little bit to keep up with the kids.
Well, and rewarding that in an era of iPads and when multimedia entertainment is at a child's fingertips, that a book can still do something like that and capture the imagination.
Exactly. And then the one thing that we're very pleased about, we have a writing component to One Book, Two Book, and that will be showcased on Sunday. We have an event called Write Out Loud. It's from 1 to 3 at McBride Auditorium on the University of Iowa, Pennacrest. And more than 800 students submitted a piece of original work. These are students from all up and down the corridor, and they were evaluated by our friends at Pearson, who do this for a living, so they're quite good at it. And they identified some grade level winners as well as some honorable mention students in each grade. So we will recognize more than 100 kids at that event. 16 of them will read their work, and the others will receive certificates, and there'll be some door prizes and things. But the level, again, of sophistication, of the depth of emotion that these kids are writing about is pretty staggering to me. I've got a couple of young guys at home, and seeing what they're able to do and write and convey is pretty amazing. And then seeing that kind of writ large across the corridor is a pretty stunning thing. And to be able to hear these kids read this work and to help celebrate that. We as a community celebrate athletic achievement of our kids and math achievement, and when they make all-state band, and those are all fantastic things. It's a little harder to quantify creative achievement in the way of writing, and we have found a way to do that, and we think the community should come out and help us celebrate, let these kids know that this is important.
And I also see there's something here for mom and dad or grandpa and grandma. You've got a session on Sunday, I think, or maybe it is Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
On how to read aloud to kids.
Yeah, that was one thing we found when we have our authors present during One Book, Two Book, there's always a group of people at the back of the room who are grown-ups, adults who are interested in publishing their own children's book or just finding out more about that process. And we realized that it was kind of an untapped market for us. And so we've created a track of programming for adults. And so we have a session on story time, how to do a better job of reading to your kids, a way to integrate toys into storytelling, a way to I'm trying to think of our last session. We have one about like guided play and how to make things more participatory and help kids with their learning. And then we close out the afternoon with a session with all of the participating authors, all 5 of those folks. Catherine House, one of our authors, is going to lead a panel, moderate that, so that grown-ups can come in and talk to these folks about how did you get started, how did you find your agent, what do you do in terms of trying to find an illustrator for your books. Those are the kinds of questions that people want to ask, and we figured we have all of these folks who do this for a living in town. Let's put them in front of that audience and see if we can connect them.
Well, it's a full weekend of activities, and all for the price of
$0.00.
It's my favorite price. So there is, as you said, several different tracks, a ton of different activities over the 3 days, and we've hit you with a lot of information here for people who want to digest it in better sized bites to plan their schedule. Where can they go online?
They can go to onebook2book.org, and those are all spelled out. We don't mess with numbers in the City of Literature, so it's ONE book, right. TWO book.
That's what my editor says. Spell out all the numbers.
So people can go there, full schedule, full bios of all of the participating authors, information about those sessions that kids need to pre-register for, a lot of information about a great weekend.
John Kenyon from the Iowa City of Literature. It's the One Book, Two Book Festival coming up next weekend again. onebook2book.org for the full schedule and information.